A Nightmare on Elm Street is undoubtedly one of the most iconic horror franchises of all time, with Freddy Krueger himself being one of the most recognizable slashers to ever hit our screens. First gifted to us by the late legendary Wes Craven himself in 1984, this series has been a roller coaster of quality. But one thing that's remained consistent for decades is our love for the knife-gloved wielding, quippy, burnt, striped sweater and fedora wearing Freddy Krueger, and of course his over-the-top creative kills. So let's talk about them. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am your host, Brett Murphy, and for today's video, I am going to be tier listing and ranking every Nightmare on Elm Street kill. It is also incredibly important for me to note that this list was based off of the kills counted by the kill counting king himself, James A. Janice of the Dead Meat YouTube channel. On top of having seen all of the movies for myself, my favorites numerous times, I used Dead Meat's work mostly for fact-checking and comparing the ones I wanted to include and the ones they did include to try and have a master list of sorts. Like I also just mentioned in the intro, there will be a ranking at the end of the video too, so be sure to stick around for that. If tier lists are something you enjoy doing, I'll leave a link in the comments below to this template in case you would like to check it out for yourself. Before I hop into the actual video itself, I just wanted to let you all know that I have carefully curated playlists for every type of video I do. Whether it's tier list and ranking videos themselves, top 10s versus videos, video essays, there is a playlist for all. So I encourage you to explore the channel and I guarantee you'll find something you like. And if by some chance you don't, then feel free to suggest something you might like. And so without further ado, let's hop right into things. Alrighty folks, we've made it over to our official tier list. I put this one together, and as you can see, I did use screenshots from the kill counts in order to actually get the images for the kills for this tier list. It just felt like the easiest solution. I was using them anyway, I was combing through them, and as I typically like to do, if this is your first time watching one of my tier list videos, I do have my tier lists named to be a little more unique to the channel's identity. So at the very top, we have Godlike, then Awesome Sauce, then Good as Gold, then Quite Alright, then Super Meh, and at the very bottom is our Rock Bottom, the lowest of the low. We reserve that for the worst of the worst. As I always like to do as well, they are done in the order, I think, to the best of my ability, of the way that they roll out throughout the franchise. So the very first one is our very first kill of the franchise with Tina, and the very last one is the very last time we saw Freddy in action with the final kill of the 2010 remake. And now we'll kick off with, again, the very first kill of the franchise, Freddy's first victim ever. It is Tina Gray from the original Nightmare on Elm Street movie, and I'm going to put it right up in Godlike. I know some people might argue that maybe it hasn't necessarily aged the best, the effects don't look great, it's obvious that she's on a wire, and all these other tricks and things like that from the behind the scenes stuff. Look, the movie was released in 1984, and at that time we hadn't really seen a kill like this from a slasher movie, so it was unique then, and although it's been replicated and copied and cloned and done to death now, back then, it wasn't. It was new, it was fresh, it was exciting, and I like to watch that original movie through that lens. How would I react sitting in the theater seeing this for the first time? I feel like I would be traumatized. This girl's body just swinging and flailing around the room, her screaming and crying out, her boyfriend watching with just pure terror and shock on his face, not sure if he's dreaming himself or not. It's great, and it has an epic conclusion. I think it's fantastic, and although sure elements of it might not have aged the best, looking back on it, for the first kill of the franchise to set the tone for everything that would follow, it's a pretty damn good kicking off point. But then they followed it with Rods, and I think Rods is quite alright. I was gonna say just okay, but like, we'll stick in line with what the tiers say. It's a quite alright kill. The creativity is definitely still there. You have Freddy controlling the blanket in the jail cell, turns it into a noose, and he hangs the poor guy. I get it that it's not as like bloody or violent or creative as some of the other ones, but I still think there's enough creativity to keep it out of those bottom 2 tiers. The Blood Geyser, though, Glenn's Blood Geyser, is also going in that godlike. It's a super simple kill. The guy gets sucked into his bed while he's sleeping, but the massive explosion of blood, and then the shots after the fact, like, it's pretty iconic Hollywood lore and knowledge at this point, that the room that they were using, it tilted, so the blood kind of running to the side on the ceiling wasn't planned, but one, it would just been way too much work to reset everything and do it again, and in the end, it actually kind of gave this unsettling side effect to the whole thing, but I think this is a fantastic kill on its own. Even without the Blood Geyser, the thought of just casually passing out one night while you're watching TV and then being sucked into your bed by a dream demon thing is absolutely horrifying. So then the Blood Geyser and all the cool stuff that comes with that makes it even all that more memorable. After that, we have Marge Thompson, and hers honestly isn't that great. I don't think it's a rock bottom thing because I think the fire stunt work here is phenomenal. Far too often nowadays, Hollywood studios cheap out. I don't know if it's necessarily cheaping out, but they rely heavily on visual effects and CGI for their fire, and we just don't get enough really awesome fire stunts. And even though Freddy does look a bit bulkier here, I will admit, the fire stunt leading up to this kill is bloody brilliant. The kill itself is odd because it's like she dies there, then her burnt corpse kind of gets sucked down to hell or something, I guess, and then she's also in the end nightmare thing and gets kind of pulled through the window. I'm going with this portion as the kill with Freddy on top of her because Freddy did get pulled into the real world and he was set on fire, so I think that that's the kind of general consensus of her death, and it's just fine. The fire stunt, great. The actual death could have been a lot more to it. Now we have the coach from Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. This one's also going in quite alright. I get the reason that this kill is so, like, sexualized and stuff like that, because the whole movie is really about, like, suppressed sexuality, or repressed, or whatever the proper word is. I get all that, and it's honestly kind of satisfying, because the character is, like, part creep, part asshole, but it could have been more creative than what it ended up being. The setup to the kill, but then after that it's just like a simple backslash, so it doesn't really go as hog wild as it probably could have. After that, we now have Ron Grady's kill. I'll go good as gold for this one, only because I like the other perspective of the kill, and I like how it shows just how strong Freddy really is. He first gets birthed out of another human, which the practical effects on that are bananas. Like, they're so good. I love that practical, like, magic they pulled off. The kill here, he gets lifted up, and then you're kind of getting like a traditional gut stab. You don't actually see it too much, which is a bit of a bummer, but the person on the other side of the door, not only the claws going through with the blood spurt, but then the pulling down, and then you get the shot back, where Freddy's just holding him up with one hand. So I think that is enough grounds there to put him in good as gold. But the partygoers, I'm counting them all. They're counting the kill count and everything, so it seems fair, but I think almost all of the partygoers are just gonna go right in rock bottom. Kind of trying to comb through here to see if there's any that were memorable, but it was like falling in a boiling hot pool, falls into a fire, gets trampled, and it's like kind of boring stuff. This one guy, I'll put him super mad because I love a good gut stab, especially when it's all done on screen and we don't just see like the finger knives going through the back or anything, where you get the actual good, like, you know, the gushy stuff, the stab through the gut, the stab through the back, things like that. And then this guy just gets thrown through a barbecue. He was just counted for the sake of being counted, for upping the count a little bit, but I don't know if getting thrown into a barbecue, even if it is by a entity, demon, monster thing, I don't know if that is necessarily grounds for death, but it was counted in the kill count, so I'll count it here. This last kill also good as gold, even though it was in a dream. I think it's still, we're gonna count it. We're going to count it here. Carrie, I think, is the character's name. I do like the suddenness of it, and I do like that you're getting it all in camera, and it looks really good. I just think they could have really upped the blood and gore in it, in my personal opinion, especially after there were so many other really great practical effects in this movie in particular, even though I'm not a big fan of the movie. I do think that the surprise final gotcha, first off, is way better than the final one in the original movie, but the fact that you get to see the hand, the glove, and everything just go straight through her back, out the chest, but it's like relatively bloodless, I think they could have gone a bit more over the top for it. And I think if that was the case, it definitely could have been bumped up to awesome sauce, but for now, we'll keep it a little bit lower. Our first kill for Dream Warriors, arguably the fan favorite of the franchise. It's always a toss-up between the original and Dream Warriors. It's Philip Anderson, and it's the puppet kill, and I am going straight into godlike with that. A lot of it is the setup. Let's not kid ourselves here. The actual kill itself isn't that great. He gets to the top of the tower, whatever the hell it is. The strings are cut, and he just kind of falls to his death, but the build-up is just insane. Using his, like, veins and everything, his blood vessels to puppet him around, making him walk and everything. Like, that is pure nightmare fuel. It is sick, sadistic shit from Freddy Krueger. And I think, honestly, this movie is where Freddy gets his most creative, his most over the top, and his most just, like, twisted and just really, really, again, sadistic is the word that keeps coming to mind, because it is. Like, who thinks to do this? Freddy Krueger does. And that was our first kill for Dream Warriors, and it is a memorable one. And so is the second one, the iconic Welcome to Primetime bitch kill. Jennifer falls asleep watching TV, Freddy morphs into the TV, grabs her, slams the head in. Again, relatively bloodless, which I know some people were a bit bummed out by, especially after the first one is pretty gory, at least up until the point that the strings are cut. But between Freddy coming out of the TV, the practical effects there, again, unbelievably well done. But then the aftermath too, when they find her later and her body still dangling there with her head jammed in the TV, is awesome. This one, the heroin overdose one from Taryn, I'll put it in awesome sauce. I debated higher and I debated lower. I think the build-up, let's say, it's pretty cringy, right? She's like this punk chick with her like double butterfly knives and things. It's a little bit cringy, but the fact that she was a recovering addict, again, that just really, really messed up, warped mind version of Freddy here, where the writers were just having a blast, thinking of the most insane, just disgusting stuff to do for these kills, the things that are really going to make people squirm. The fact that she's a former addict, and then those gross little, like, suction holes on her arms and stuff, nasty. Freddy's face, oh my god, when he's like, oh, that's the stuff and everything. Really gross stuff, but I think the build-up to the kill, a little bit cringy, not all that fun. I get that it's kind of in line with the tone for the rest of the movie, however, I don't think there's quite enough there to put it up at the top with the godlike ones, because those are just like, those are the best, right? The peak of the franchise. The next Kill the Wizarding one, I'll put it in, I don't think it belongs down with the Superman. I'll put it up with the quite alright ones. The build-up is probably the cringiest of the movie. He's like a wizard or whatever his name is. His name is Will in the movie, the character. I can't remember if he Will the Wise or something like that. I don't know what he tries to call himself. But in the end, again, I like the show of Freddy's strength, and I like a good gut stab, but there's just not enough here for me to put it up. Like, again, when you get to later in the list, after you start laying the foundation, a little bit of the groundwork, you're then comparing what comes next to what you already have on the list, and I just can't see that really comparing to the good as gold and above. Now, we have our wonderful Donald Thompson. And unfortunately, I'm also going to put him in quite alright. For a character that is so, I don't want to say iconic, but is so important to the lore, is so important to Heather Langenkamp's Nancy, the fact that he just kind of goes out like that, fighting some skeletons or whatever it is, and then he just kind of gets impaled in a junkyard, I feel like he could have had a much better, you know, hero death, so to speak. So I'm a little bit bummed out by the way he went out. Nancy's isn't that good of a death. Like, it's just a very run-of-the-mill, mediocre, pretty standard Freddy Krueger kill/death. However, the fact that she sacrifices herself to save what remains of the Dream Warriors is why I think I can say, you know what, from the context of the movie, the way the whole scene plays out before and after her death, I think it does deserve to get bumped a little bit. Alright, we're moving pretty quick. We've already made our way to the fourth movie, The Dream Master. And Kincaid is our first kill. I'll put him in good as gold. Again, it's similar to Nancy's where the actual kill, pretty standard Freddy stuff. It's like 3 gut stabs or whatever. Nothing that's too crazy, too out there. But the setup, Freddy's Junkyard Resurrection, is one of my favorite sequences in the entire franchise. So the fact that that's kind of the set dressing, the decoration for that kill, makes me bump it a little bit. But other than that, it's a fairly run-of-the-mill Freddy kill. The waterbed kill, I feel like I'll put it in good as gold. I could have put it a little bit higher, but it's just, they tried to recreate the magic of Glenn's death from the first movie, and they just simply couldn't. I get what they were going for. They wanted to do another bed death because that's where we do most of our sleeping, but they tried to spruce it up a little bit. How can we make this familiar yet different? And they went with a waterbed, and it's fine. I think we could have got more of the underwater stuff. I think they could have done a bit more setup and everything, but for what it is, it's a fine kind of knockoff, slight twist to Glenn's death, just not quite as memorable. Now we have another fire death. Character just gets thrown into the fire. Super Miss seems fitting enough. I'll go slightly higher, actually, because I like when the other characters burst into the room and just, weird as it sounds, they find her just sizzling and simmering and crackling like her burnt corpse and all the flames. She's actually on fire in real life. So I think that does just kind of bump it a little bit. However, it is also an important character then getting killed off like that. So it's a bit of a bummer, but nevertheless, I think we'll leave it in quite alright for now. Then we have the suck face kill, and some people might put this in awesome sauce given what's already in awesome sauce, but honestly, it is one of my personal favorites. I love it. The quip that kicks it off, the way that her corpse looks after the fact, and the way that he just kind of like discards her afterwards, to me it always makes me chuckle, but it also is just an insane way to go out, like literally just having the life sucked out of you. So again, it's something only Freddy Krueger could do, and he does it, and does it well. Then we have Rick's death slash the kung fu karate kill. I can't even remember what this guy did. It's okay. Again, I'll put it in quite alright. I thought about Superman, but the fact that I hated the character so much and he didn't make it out of the movie makes me want to bump it up a little bit. There are some elements that do make me chuckle in this sequence. It could have been better done. I wish they would have riffed off of more like classic kung fu karate movies. I think it could have been a lot of fun. Instead, they kind of just use it as a basis for like a more goofier, over-the-top, almost parody-like version of that. So it could have been a lot better, but it also could have been a lot worse. And again, it's a character I hated, so I loved seeing him go out like that. As wild as it sounds. This one, also another godlike kill. Say what you want about The Dream Master. I don't think it's a very good movie, but it's got some great kills in it. And this bug bench press kill, great. The bench press sequence, great. The bug transformation, great. Like, again, if nothing else, for the most part, this franchise has some of the best practical kills of any of the slashers. And again, because Freddy has so much creative freedom, so do the writers, the directors, the makeup department. They can use their imagination and just run wild with it, and they really do with a lot of these kills. And Freddy's first real death, and it's one that is also going in godlike. It is my favorite of Freddy's deaths. The fact that you get to see inside Freddy, the fact that the souls he's absorbed or eaten or whatever or taken over the many years coming back to get him, the hands, the faces pushing out of him, pulling him apart. Like, again, I cannot stress and emphasize enough how good the practical effects are. Even in some of the worst movies of the series, the practical effects remain mostly unmatched. They were some of the best in the business then, and they still look so damn good today. And we moved on to The Dream Child, a movie I absolutely despise, and it only has a few kills, but the kills that are in it are fantastic. The first one is the motorcycle transformation kill. How many times are you going to hear me say practical effects in this video? I don't know. You can keep a counter if you want. I'm not going to, because it's going to be too many and I'll be embarrassed by the end. But the transformation, Buddy's on his motorbike, falls asleep, transforms, then the crash, all of it. The transformation looks so painful. It looks like genuinely, like the actor sold it so well because it looks like it actually physically hurts. and they did such a good job with the makeup, such a good job with the bike parts, and using their imagination to think up what it might look like if someone just suddenly started fusing with their own motorcycle. It's really, really awesome. The next one, too, is the stuffed up one. It's disgusting. It's kind of hard to sit through for people that like get grossed out by like food stuff, or people like eating with their mouths open or eating too much or any kind of like phobia or like pet peeve like that. You're gonna hate this kill, but in terms of kills in this franchise, it's right up Freddy's alley. The whole time he's being quippy and he's just shoving her with more food, and I think at points he even starts shoving her own like innards, intestines and shit like that into her too. It's really gross, but it's also really awesome because it's just Freddy, being gross, being weird and disgusting and quipping the whole time and just taking so much joy and pleasure in inflicting pain. And this, again, is one of the best. It's just plain and simple is. The comic book kill, I'll put it in good as gold. I like the idea of it. The execution is actually pretty good. It's just not that great of a kill, especially when you're following the motorcycle one and the food one. The comic book one, I think it's cool that they took a risk and did something like that, but the fact that it just kind of ends with like, yeah, he just kind of loses his color and stuff like that, it's not anywhere near as memorable as the food one or the motorcycle one or the other ones that come above it. Okay, let's continue making quick work of this franchise because we are now already on Freddy's Dead. And our first one is the chalkboard ear explosion one, and truthfully, I think this is also going to have to go in godlike. Carlos, I mean, we could debate all day if some of these characters deserved it or not. I think sometimes slashers make a point of making their characters horrible or unlikable or just nothing characters so we can not feel bad when they get killed off. This one, I mean, I don't know anyone who likes the sound of nails on a chalkboard. Even just talking about the sound of nails on a chalkboard gives me goosebumps and makes me shudder. So the fact that Freddy does this to the point that Buddy's ears start twisting and morphing and then his head explodes at the end. If you watch my ranking, you'll know that I hate saying anything positive about Freddy's Dead. I hate this movie. It's my least favorite in the franchise. Yes, even worse in my mind than the 2010 remake or Dream Master or not Dream Warriors, Dream Child. A lot of dreaming in this franchise. But this kill is top tier. Definitely among the very best of the franchise, without a doubt. Then we have this one where he kind of just... I like the video game aspect of it. Spencer being taken into Freddy's video game, Freddy controlling it, and then them seeing him in his little, like, worker station there, his little booth, playing with the joystick and making it. I think that stuff's fun enough, but this is also where I feel like Freddy was at his most quippy, his most goofy, his most borderline cartoonish, and I know that there are, especially after doing my recent ranking, which I did pretty well for my channel, so check that out if you'd like to see how I'd rank the movies, but I'm not someone who enjoys that side of Freddy. I like when his insults cut deeper. I like when his insults feel more sinister and have like a lot of malice behind them, like he's toying, like a cat toying with a mouse, right? Like he knows that there's nothing you can do about it, and so he's really just digging his metaphorical claws into you even more. That's the side of Freddy I like, when he feels more sinister, he feels more mean. I don't love the quippy, really over-the-top, goofy, borderline, cartoonish version. The video game stuff, I think, was done well enough, especially when video games were very much so still in their infancy back then, but the fact that he just then topples over into a bottomless pit is pretty underwhelming given how cool the rest of it was. The parachuting one, it's fine. I think good as gold because I know they're really playing on the fear there a lot of people have of like skydiving, of parachuting, of heights. So I get why they did this kill, and I think it's okay. The bed of nails thing, like I could have done without. I guess it adds to it a little bit, and again, it's just Freddy being Freddy, trying to make it as sick and twisted and demented as possible, but the bed of nails wasn't super necessary. I think the other stuff was good enough, but because we had the bed of nails, whatever, right? Like, it's in there, it's fine. Now we have another entry for Rock Bottom. I don't know why I thought there wasn't going to be any Rock Bottom, because here it is with the tier that has almost the most. The Razor off-screen kill of the character, I think Alice Cooper was the name. It's just an off-screen Razor kill. Like, That's it. It's not even like a knife glove kill. It's a razor off-screen kill. Then we also have another one where it's a Freddy strangulation kill of Loretta Krueger. And that one also, like, no one wants to see Freddy strangle someone. Like, that's not what we're here for. Freddy's pipe bomb death, I'll only put it in good as gold because it sucks that they ruined what was a really awesome practical explosion with really crappy early visual effects. You have Freddy's face coming out of Freddy's face, turning into pixels, exploding into demon soul thingies flying around, and it's all covering what looks like a pretty kick-ass practical explosion. So the pipe bomb and explosion, great. The stuff that's kind of covering parts of it, most of it at times, not so great. Then we have Charles's New Nightmare death, the first to kick off New Nightmare, and although I know that this ends up being a dream, we do find out later that the characters have mysteriously been found dead, so we're just gonna say that this is how they died. This is a pretty standard. I like the fact that it's like a movie prop gone wrong. I like the blood and like the puncture wounds and stuff. I think that stuff's well done. But it's a very, very safe Freddy death where it's like the knife glove to the throat. That's it. That's all we're getting out of it. So, and then same thing with the one after it. Actually, I'm going to put this one in super meh because you don't get that like deep cut that we really like to see with Freddy's kills, and the hand kind of going around. I know it was early. The movie was in like 93 or 94 or whatever it was. I don't think that it looks as good as it even could have back then because there are a lot of really great practical effects in the other movies and other movies that were coming out at that time. So the fact that you have it like kind of scampering around and then all it does is just go like on the top of his chest. That's the noises it makes apparently. The fact that it's just kind of just dancing on the top of his chest and there's kind of blood splatter, pretty underwhelming with how graphic the one before it was. So I'll bump that down just a tiny bit. Chase's death is another mediocre one for a character that carries so much importance to the movie. Usually you'd think that characters like that would go out with a bigger bang. I guess there is a pretty big bang when his car crashes and explodes, but the actual kill, because we know he's pretty much dead before then, is just okay. Julie's death, where she gets flung around the room trying to replicate that Tina one, kind of like the waterbed one from a few movies previous, trying to replicate the Glenn one. This one tries to replicate the Tina one. I'll still put it in good as gold, only because I like that we also get to see the kid's perspective. Like, the kid can see Freddy, and Freddy is taunting and tormenting him by what he's doing to his babysitter. And someone that's, like, really in a lot of ways his primary caretaker, given how busy his parents are. So the fact that he's screaming and crying for her, she's screaming and crying for him, and Freddy's just having fun in the middle, I think it adds that extra layer that we don't really get with Tina's death. However, a lot of people just think it's a cheap copy, and so they refuse to give it any of its flowers. I still think it's pretty great, so I'm going to put it in good as gold. That feels like a pretty safe place for me. Then we have the entity's death, the thing that was pretending to be Freddy Krueger in New Nightmare. I think, again, it's one of those things where the practical effects start off alright, but then they transition to some stuff that doesn't look quite as good, and so that one will get bumped down a few spots for that. And now we've made it to Freddy vs. Jason, which to a lot of die-hard Freddy fans is a bit of a disappointing movie. I personally am a big fan of both franchises pretty equally, and I think this movie is fun as hell. I always rank it very highly, whether I'm talking about the Nightmare on Elm Street movies or the Friday the 13th movies. I think it was exactly what it needed to be, and I also just love that era of movies. I love that early 2000s punk grunge kind of feel, the vibe that the movie gives off with the nu metal soundtrack and the over-the-top direction and the coloring and everything. I really do love Freddy vs. Jason. However, Freddy does not get any time to shine in terms of kills. He gets a lot of screen time and everything and gets a lot of quips in there and whatnot, but in terms of kills, he only has 3 of the, like, 20 that are in the movie, or 24 or 25 or whatever it is. He gets 3, and none of them are all that good. The first one is just a little girl that gets killed off screen from the opening. You don't see much of it, and again, if you're not going to see any of it, not that I'd want to see it with a kid, but, like, they could have had anyone in that role. They just chose to remind us that, like, oh yeah, Freddy was, like, a child predator and murderer and stuff like that. So it's, like, it's fine, I guess. It gets its point across. The next one, though, is a relatively memorable one, I will say. I don't know if it quite belongs in Awesome Sauce. I'm tempted to put it in there just for the sake of having more in Awesome Sauce. But I think for now, for Mark, we'll put him in good as gold. Or, you know what? Oh, because I really like the build-up around it. You know what? I can always adjust it when I do my ranking at the end. For now, I will put Mark's kill in awesome sauce. It's Freddy's best kill of the movie. And it's also the torment around it. He has a brother that took his own life, so to speak. I know that YouTube is very sensitive with those kinds of things, but that's the context of the movie. And then he's tormented by Freddy mimicking that brother during that period of time when he did the deed. He torments him with that, and then you get the face slash. He gets set on fire and burned into his back is like Freddy's back, or I can't even remember the exact words, but he burns words into his back for the rest of the people to read. So the fact that he gets tormented so much, then the face slash, the burning slash branding, and then burnt, like there's a lot in here. They threw a lot into one kill, so I think that is enough to justify putting it in the awesome sauce tier. Then we have one which was just a reveal. That was also, I'm going to put that in a rock bottom one too. It was just a reveal that Freddy's the one that killed Laurie's mom after all. It's not all that exciting. I guess it was kind of a twist for the movie, but there's nothing really all that memorable about it. Now we are at our final stop. The last time we got anything new from Freddy was 15, going on 16 years ago with 2010's A Nightmare on Elm Street remake. A lot of people hate this movie. Most people have it at the bottom of their ranking. I personally don't mind this movie at all. I think it belongs right in line with Rob Zombie's Halloween, the 2009 Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw 03, The Hills Have Eyes, The Hitcher. Like, all of them just feel, look, and come off the same. They're just much angstier, modern, more graphic versions of the originals. And this one's no different. It's almost a beat-for-beat retelling of the original A Nightmare on Elm Street with just a meaner, angrier, less quippy Freddy, a lot more teen angst, and, you know, more blood. Sometimes good blood, sometimes fake-looking, cheap, shitty CGI blood. But regardless, I'm going to have some praise for these kills because I think they're pretty wicked. And I'm actually going to start off with, I think the character's name is Dean. His death, although fairly simple, he does himself in, but it's super graphic and painful. You almost feel the resistance, him fighting. You see what's happening in the dream, but then you also see what he's doing to himself in the real world. It's super messed up. It's in a public space. I like the setting. I like the atmosphere it gives off. And as a way to start off your movie with something so graphic and so visceral, I think it's a solid kicking off point. Is it as iconic as Tina's? No, of course not. But for this new era of Freddy that never really materialized, I think it was a pretty good starting point. I'm not gonna lie to you, that was pretty good. Then we have Chris's death, which is literally Tina's death. Again, you're gonna hear a fair bit of repetition here. It's basically just Tina's death, which is also basically just Julie's death, but it has that 2010 edge to it. They wanted to be edgy. They wanted it to be like really, you know, dark and eerie and stuff like that. You know what I mean? They tried really hard with these movies. They all kind of came out the same in my opinion. However, because they had however many years, almost 30 odd years on the original Nightmare on Elm Street, they were able to do more. They were able to move the set around more. They were able to make it look more authentic, more natural. And so her flinging around the room, and then the much bloodier conclusion with the chest slashes and everything like that, I think that it does have grounds for awesome sauce. Yes, I get it. It's exactly a beat for beat, almost shot for shot of Tina's death, but at the same time, I don't think that that's necessarily a negative. They just did the same thing, but they modernized it and they added way more blood, so I think it's still okay to put that in awesome sauce, personally. Then you have Jesse's death, and honestly, also an awesome sauce kill. I know it's just a very standard Freddy finger knifed glove through the back, but like I said for the Good as Gold one at the end of part 2, Freddy's Revenge, this takes that idea, does it mostly practically, or at least the camera's far away enough for it to look mostly practical, and it is way bloodier. It is way more graphic, and that to me is what Freddy's all about. It's what Freddy could still be now if this movie had succeeded and they kept making them. Just much more graphic, much more in your face, bloody, violent, gory, and I thought it was pretty great. And the fact that his poor cellmate has to sit there and watch this, and then there's not really an explanation. His chest just kind of explodes and he dies in his jail cell. Kind of funny, I guess, in a weird, messed up, backwards way, but yeah, another one that's pretty good. Then we get Freddy's actual death, like the first time that we're really seeing it on screen, and I think that Jackie Earle Haley acted his ass off here. Could they have done more with it? Yeah, definitely. I think they could have gotten more out of it, but at the same time, the fact that we're like really getting to see Freddy's death here, his original human death here, I think is good enough to put in good as gold. Then we have this one, which is hotly debated as to whether this is a death or not. I'm not sure where people stand with it necessarily. I think it's a death, and the kill count, they counted it, I'm pretty sure, as a death, and it's like based on who you asked. But Marcus, I think is his name, Marcus Yon, I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name, but I think because of how debatable it is and how, I don't want to say unsatisfying it is, but how plain Jane it is, I am going to have to put it in rock bottom. Essentially, it's this character that is a living, breathing, walking, talking exposition dump, tells our characters everything they need to know, and then he falls asleep on camera and gets his head smashed into the camera, but someone still got the video and uploaded it. I just can't see a way that Freddy let this guy live. Some people are like, no, like someone uploaded the videos, this guy's definitely still alive, and I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think Freddy lets people go. So even if that wasn't his death, the dude's definitely dead. Then we had these filmmakers' best attempt at doing the original final death, final shocking moment from the original movie, but modernized, and I guess trying to save it a little bit, and I'll put it in, but looking at the rest in good as gold, I feel like because of how graphic and over the top it is, I have to put it in awesome sauce. I am tempted to put it in good as gold, but looking at what else is in good as gold, I don't think I can say, you know what, this is just as kind of meh, had potential, didn't quite work out as these other ones. Essentially, as we all know, the original movie ends with Marge, I think her name is, Nancy's mom, getting turned into a dummy, very obviously, and sucked in through the tiny hole on their door. A lot of people hated it, still hate it. Wes Craven didn't want it. The studio pushed it, forced it because they wanted to leave room for sequels. In this one, they did kind of a similar thing, but they upped their game, in my opinion. You have Freddy lurking behind it in the mirror, and then he puts his hand out and through her face and then sucks her into the mirror. The through the face stuff, I wish they did it practically. If they did it practically, 100% would have been in godlike. The visuals on it are not that great, but it is still super graphic, super gross, and I admire, a lot of people don't, I admire that they still kept the heart and the idea of that twist to have sequels, but they upped their game. It wasn't just this like random shoehorned in nonsense at the very end where, again, it looks god-awful. They did try to do something a little more unique and a little more original with it, so I will give them props for that. The visuals don't hold up super well, but it is also still a very graphic, nasty kill. And now the moment you've probably mostly all been waiting for is the actual ranking of all the kills slash deaths. And as I always like to point out, the first one for our number one of, I believe, 49 or 50 that are here, the very first spot right here, godlike, is where Tina's death currently is. That is the number one. Then we zigzag all the way to the last place one, which is where Marcus is right now. And for the sake of staying within tradition, where I always do my rankings worst to best, we'll start off with the bottom, the rock bottom tier. And this one is probably going to be a bit tougher because, again, it's just some random party goers and stuff like that. But regardless, we'll start with rock bottom and then work our way up to then reveal my number one pick. I guess because it has some story element weight to it, we'll put Laurie's mom being the death there at the top of the rock bottom for like not being the worst of the worst. Then I guess Marcus is, because he's again a character that holds some weight. Least favorite's definitely the barbecue. After that, I'll probably just bump all of the party goers down because they don't do anything. Then at least this one, it's like kind of an on-screen strangulation. Maybe this one is probably second worst, actually, because it's off-screen, and that's just not Freddy's style. Then I'll bump this one up just for the sake of having the partygoers there. The partygoers pretty interchangeable. Like, at least this guy's getting stepped on, and that's kind of like a real thing that happens in super messed up situations, even with, like, you know, concerts and things like that. pretty morbid, but it's true, so I guess I will leave that one there. So that's my rock bottom tier. Now, very last place, of course, going to be the barbecue throw, questionable altogether kill. Now we're in the super meh tier, and I think just because this guy is a relatively important character, I think his name was Chase or whatever the hell his name was, the husband, Nancy's husband, or sorry, Heather's husband in the movie, getting killed, so I'll put him there. Then I actually do like this, like, really up-close and personal gut stab. You're getting, like, a good, meaty gut stab there. A random, nameless, faceless party goer, but you know what? It's there. And then this one, I don't love that he just kind of does some finger dancing on him and there's blood splurts everywhere. But, you know what? Could have been worse. So at least they did put a bit of effort with the blood and stuff in there. But now we'll move up to quite alright. I think I'll put the bottomless pit one. I like the build up, but the actual bottomless pit part is super underwhelming. Donald Thompson, because, you know what, actually probably the entity is in last. Then Donald Thompson there, because a character like that could have had a much better hero death. The Kung Fu Karate one could have been a lot better as well. The burning one, I like the way that they find her, so I actually might leave that a bit higher. This gut stab, a lot of people actually do enjoy this build up with, like, you know, Will the Wise, or I think that's actually more of a Stranger Things reference, but anyway, the fact that they do like the fact that he has a bit of powers in it and he can fight back a little bit against Freddy, so I'll leave that like that. Then the coaches, then Rods, because Rods is definitely an iconic one. Now we're making our way up to good as gold. Freddy's pipe bomb death, Julie's death, the original. Probably put the comic book one in last, because although I like the setup and I like how cool it really does look, the comic book stuff, the fact that he kind of just goes out like that, is it a little bit, you know, I might put Freddy's burn death actually. I like the creativity of having the color drain out of the comic book paper image. I think that's cool enough. Freddy's pipe bomb death next. Actually, I'll put that there, I think, only because I hate that they block up so much of it with really bad visuals. The waterbed death, I think, can definitely be bumped up higher than this door death. I think this through the back one can probably be bumped up higher. Nancy's death, although pretty standard stuff, does carry that emotional weight, so I'll bump that up a little extra bit. Kincaid's death, because the setup is so good, I'll bump that up. Then the doors, I'll probably move this around. Julie's death, because I do like that the kid gets to see everything and they have a lot of that. Nothing like some childhood trauma. And I think that just about does it for the good as gold tier. So now we're moving up to the real tight race. I think this is the top 16 now we're in with Godlike and Awesome Sauce. Starting with Awesome Sauce, there's a good chance, because I was debating where I should put this one all together, I'll move Marks to the back of the pack for Awesome Sauce. Probably put the motorcycle one ahead of the heroin one. Probably put even the food one, then the heroin one, because I do love the practical effects. Then the one that just basically rips off Tina's death. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put the mom's death right there, because again, that one was also teetering on being bumped down a little bit because the visual effects aren't that great. The chest death here back. This one I really do like. A lot of people are going to say, it's pretty basic, but the fact that you can feel the resistance, you can feel the fight, and then the pain, like how slow it is going across. That was really graphic stuff. It's really, really, really high note to open your movie on, to really make people squirm and feel unsettled. So I think it does justify being in that position. But the rest, from 9, 10, yeah, I think that that's pretty fair. And now, the very tight, close race for the godlike tier, and who will be my pick for the number one, the best Nightmare on Elm Street / Freddy Krueger kill / death. Let's get right into it. There's a lot to consider here. You have your gore factor, your practical effects, the setup, the creativity behind it. There's a lot to consider when it comes to Freddy and A Nightmare on Elm Street, but I'll try my best to do this list justice. You're all gonna hate it, but Tina's death, first one in the godlike tier, first kill of the franchise, has a lot going for it, but compared to the others, it is probably the least creative of the bunch. Now, Carlos's death, I do like the nails on the chalkboard, I do like the head explosion, but how does it compare? The suck face one might be a bit below it, because it's mostly the aftermath that I like. Freddy's death there too is really good, but it's a Freddy death, so I don't know. Glenn's geyser one, it's a really tough. It is really tough, and I'm trying to talk you all through without too many uhs and ums and long dramatic pauses. So where I'm at now is I feel like I'm confident in my last two. Tina's, again, it does show its age. It's not as gory as even the remake one is. So that's going to be back a little bit. I like the aftermath of the suck face one, and I like parts of it, but when you compare to the others, I don't think it's quite as good, quite as top tier. Carlos's is good, it's painful, but is it better than Freddy being torn apart from the inside by all of the souls he's consumed over the years? Probably not. The bench press one too, also super gnarly. The puppeting one, the actual death isn't as good, but the setup is super memorable. So I think I might actually bump that one back just a tiny bit. I like the setup. I do love the blood vessels, veins, whatever he is, the torment that he's causing, the pain that he's inflicting, all of that stuff, super demented, super awesome. But him actually just kind of falling to his death, very underwhelming when the rest of it was so good. Glenn's, here's the thing, is it's really memorable, but it's not the most graphic of the bunch. God, that's a tough one. The bug bench press, the turning, the practical effects on that. But Freddy being torn apart from the inside is really good. I think I might bump that into third place. And again, of course, this is not like a set in stone thing, because I could look at this video while I'm editing it and be like, dude, you were such a dumbass. Why did you do that? I'm very tempted to put the Welcome to Primetime Bitch one in that number one spot because of how iconic it is, because of the practical effects, because of the line. But Glenn's death is also, like, terrifying. Like, my bed is my safe space. I love my bed. I wake up in the morning looking forward to going to bed again that night. And the fact that it turns a lot of people's safest, most comfortable, at ease place, and just something as simple and honestly for a lot of people like refreshing and much needed and just their favorite part of the day, sleep, and turning it on its head by sucking Glenn into the bed, and then the blood geyser is so awesome. But it's so tough because it's not as crazy, like complex and practical and in-depth as some of the other kills. So then it's like the one that would probably scare me the most versus the one that might be the most iconic given the dialogue and the context and also some great practical effects, but it's not really that gory. I'm really flip-flopping back and forth here, folks, but if I had to land on just one, and like I have to definitively say that's the best of the franchise, I think I am going to have to crown the Welcome to Primetime Bitch kill as the best. I mean, you have the setup. It's pretty close. Like I love falling asleep on my couch watching some TV. I'm not gonna lie to you all. So it's another one that I can definitely sympathize with a little bit. And the fact that you get that iconic line from Freddy, you get the aftermath with her body still just dangling there with her head in the TV, you get the practical cool TV arms, you get Freddy's head popping out, you get the build up with him running a talk show and stuff like that. It's just very Freddy. So although there's no like blood, gore, guts, exploding bodies or anything like that, I think everything around it is really the perfect culmination, summarization of everything that is Freddy and thus A Nightmare on Elm Street. And that, folks, is which tier each kill ends up in, and now you have my final official ranking. Again, Welcome to Primetime Bitch, the closest to the godlike label, is my number one, and you zigzag down all the way into the barbecue guy at the very end of rock bottom, furthest away from the rock bottom label. He's the last place one, and that is all from me on the computer. Now I'll transition to the other me that will go back to the regular setup and see us out. So that is all for today's video, folks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments below if you agree or disagree with my tier listing and ranking. While you're at it, don't forget to let me know how you would rank every kill/death in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Or, at the very least, feel free to share your favorites or least favorites. Since it's also been a long time since we've seen anything new from Freddy, where would you like to see this character go next? As a reminder, this is the revamped BAM2 Movies, and it is your one-stop for everything movies, be it rankings or tier list videos like this one, video essays, top 10s, or versus videos. I have it all and so much more, along with your daily nerdy news wrap-ups, a series of shorts where I keep you up to date on everything movies, gaming, and TV related. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that little bell icon so you don't miss a thing. As always, folks, I thank you all so very much for watching. Stay happy, healthy, and safe out there. From myself and the rest of the BAMTube team, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time, and that's a wrap.